What's going on, guys? This is Dumb Orange 97 here, and with me I have Dusk Thunder 9. And today, guys, we are going to be discussing something it's something we've done a few times, but we want to kind of go in depth this time and do stuff a bit, more critical but not hateful. So today we're discussing Halo 5 stories, since recently we've researched some of the marketings and some reasonings behind things, and we just want to kind of share our thoughts into the way after replaying the campaign and just seeing what they got right, but also what they got wrong. And maybe, hopefully, what we could do is see what they got right and wrong and see how we can improve for Halo 6 story.
Yeah, so,
Do you want to let's start with what they got right with the story.
Well, I don't really know, do you know,
I think, okay, like I said, guys, when I do these story breakdowns, I want you to I'm only discussing the story of what we actually got. I'm not going to compare it to the marketing. I'm not going to try and, the only thing we're going to compare Halo 5 to is just the past Halos. So, I think personally the first thing they got right with this game is probably the set piece. The fact that, yes, while they don't explain much in the first cutscene, at least they know how to get you pumped and excited for the rest of the story to come. And I also do like some of the interaction between some of the characters, because here's the deal with Osiris. While Osiris, I admit, are, while they're not muchly developed characters, you have to understand that you don't have to necessarily have big character development in order to have a good story. For example, Master Chief didn't really develop much as a character in the original Halos. It was mainly Halo 4. And fact of the matter is that they don't really need to develop, especially when they, in contrast, isn't the main characters. Yes, the majority of this time is played as Osiris, but they are never the focus of the game. The focus is on Blue Team. Now, granted, we will be talking about Blue Team, but overall, as Osiris, I don't really feel they really needed to necessarily develop, as they already were set up, and overall, they did feel like real people to me.
Well, to me, I just felt okay, I know technically this isn't a good thing, but, I really just felt like no one got any development in the entire game. Okay, I understand that you don't necessarily need development to make a good game, but literally there's nothing. There is absolutely nothing. There's just people in the game that you're playing as. Honestly, there's, they added in all these characters, but none of them get developed. Not even Chief or Locke gets development, It's really, it's just completely bland when it comes to, every single character.
We'll get into that more when we get into the wrongs, but yeah. Another thing they did get right is they do know how to represent each set piece. It's when you have a big scale story, you have to be able to set everything well, and I think they knew how to set the action well. I think they knew how to put characters in at a good time. They just, I think what this story did do right is it did know how to play as this little fun adventure. It wasn't it wasn't that in-depth. Now, granted, we'll discuss the in-depth part in the negatives, but positively, at least it knows how to immerse you into the story.
Yeah,
Another thing I do believe the story also got right, and this is probably the last thing they get right, is I did enjoy, having some of the lore things brought back. Now, there is a negative to this, but we'll get into that later. But I am happy that 343 is finally bringing some lore guys back in. For example, Buck has returned, Blue Team's now in, the Arbiter's back. Yeah. It's kind of nice to see all these characters back into some action, I guess. So those are probably the things I like. Now, let's get into the things they didn't do so well.
Well, first of all, they killed off Jewel in the first section of the game, which was stupid to begin with, just because they really shouldn't have killed them off. They should have well, like captured him or something if they wanted to get rid of him for now. And that's really what I think about it. And not even that, the way they killed him, like literally, freaking Locke just came in and like the whole fire team Osiris came in and just completely destroyed everyone there. And it was just pitiful. They could have at least gave it some kind of boss battle or something.
Well, not only that, but it's justified as Jewel being this all-powerful figure, but it's like, how is that the case when he dies so easily? It's like, no offense, I would think for being the Covenant leader, you would at least, like, you know, be really tough. Because I understand the Prophets not being that powerful because they were just religious anarchies. But Jewel is a literal full-fledged leader who rules in in a militarized covenant.
Yeah, so it was weird. Like, it was completely stupid of how he just got, like, assassinated.
It wasn't like anything significant. It just felt just weird.
Yeah, so yeah, that was one major issue I would say that was within the entire game. Another issue is, as I said, like, there really wasn't much development between, like, anyone, honestly. Like, there really wasn't a character that got developed that much. Like, literally, Fire Team Osiris and Blue Team literally were just there. Like, they don't even give really an explanation. At least for Blue Team, they don't. Like, they literally just show up expecting that we know everything.
And that's the next problem. It's that we require lore knowledge. It's like, this isn't a problem for me in particular because I know the Halo lore, but to the average player...
Yeah, they're going to need to know, like, everything about the lore to understand what actually is happening.
And it's not good because it's like, for example, you know, like many are asking about Blue Team, because you have to understand, the average player usually thinks Master Chief was the last Spartan 2, like the original Spartan, and then all of a sudden Blue Team is just there, and they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
How are there more Spartans here? Like, what?
Exactly. It's that no one's gonna really know what's actually happened.
Like, granted, they eventually explain Blue Team, but they explain it in, like, the freaking 5th level of the game.
Yeah.
It's like, at that point, it's kind of too little, too late, bros.
Yeah, so that was dumb. Like, they really didn't explain much when it comes to that. Another thing that's annoying is the Warden Eternal is, like, has 17 boss fights. Literally, you have to go against him so many times. Like, they couldn't even give us any other people to fight.
But, now granted, this is more of a gameplay problem than a story, but it does add to the story because, well, Warden's just there all the freaking time.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Like, Warden's character, I'll explain about Warden. Warden, you could, in a way, consider the main villain, at least in this terms of... He's not the main villain in the grand scheme of things, but he's the villain that does the most. So, it's like, he's there, but all he does is just, he keeps coming trying to kill you. It's like, why doesn't he do anything else? Why doesn't he lead his troops? He just comes in and goes, no, I'm not going to let you get near Cortana. And I'm just like, bro, are you for real?
Yeah, I know, it's stupid.
Which, next thing we'll get into is, we'll get into the Cortana thing last, because that one we're going to be raging about, probably. But, next problem with the game is this. The Covenant is practically useless in this game.
Oh yeah, the Covenant isn't, like, really in this game at all. As you see, like, Joel got just killed in the beginning. Really, the only thing you fight is Prometheans that are actually useful. Like, even in this scene, you can see frickin' 3 elites, like, fly out of air vents. It's frickin' pitiful.
Like, the problem with the Covenant in this game is just, you know their fate is doomed. There's no grand scheme. The Covenant doesn't even feel like a threat anymore. And that's what sucks. Like, when I played the original Halos, I felt the Covenant as a huge threat. I was like, oh my gosh, we can't let them light the Halo rings. We can't let them do this, or else everyone's gonna die. This is gonna be bad.
Yeah, like, it's really stupid. Like, now that the Covenant is just really not even, like, useful at all.
Like, contrast of this, adding to this, is with the Arbiter's faction. Yes, I'm happy the Arbiter is back, but he doesn't do much in this game. He's like really just there to help Arbiter's there to help Locke get on a Guardian, and then he's useless the rest of the game.
Yeah, pretty much Arbiter's only there just so people get are just hyped that he's there, but aside from that, he's useless.
Like, he doesn't do much. It's somewhat just bad. It's like, for example, and it doesn't work for me. Like, the contrast of that is just meaningless. Now, the next problem with this game, I did promise not to mention the marketing. It will be brought up, but I promise I won't compare it to the marketing overall. I'm just mentioning it. The contrast of Chief and Locke is pointless. There's no conflict with them. Essentially, it's like Chief just leaves for the sake of finding Cortana, and then Locke's just like, oh, I'll bring him in. Whatever.
Yeah, there's literally no tension, no anything. They really missed an opportunity.
Like, what they could have done, okay, even if it wasn't true to the marketing, if they provided at least a decent alternative, I would have been fine. But here's the problem, they don't. It's like, what could have happened is maybe, I don't know, if Locke, like, cares about Chief or something, he could say, well, we gotta stop him before he does something stupid or whatever. Like, we gotta be, or, like, say this, like Chief once saved me as a kid, you know, from the Covenant and all that, like, you know, save the galaxy. I'm gonna now save him and do something cool, and like, or just something else, like, I don't know, just Locke obeying orders and just, you know, going like, Chief, you're disobeying orders, come back, don't do this, or something. And it's like, but instead it's just like, he's just like, okay, Chief, just come back, whatever. It's like, there's no tension, there's no contrast with them, and it's just all meaningless.
Yeah, like, the whole Locke Chief thing was practically stupid. It was completely useless. And then, like, Chief in the whole entire game only gets 3 missions, which is just plain pitiful. Like, okay, I understand maybe Chief isn't going to be the main highlight of the game, but he gets 3 missions, and then Blue Team is barely explained, as we've already said. It's just... And then when they try to expand Chief's character, which they don't even do that much, but when they do, it's just cheesy. Like, the lines between him and Cortana, it's stupid.
Which, we'll get into that. But here's the thing, though, with Chief and Blue Team. The mission design is so bland that it's like, really, Locke was completely unnecessary. It's like, they could have just replaced them all with Chief missions, where Chief goes to Meridian. In Meridian, Chief fights Prometheans with Blue Team. Then he goes on the guard. And then, like, the only thing they would have to change about the story to make the whole game about Chief is just make it where Chief goes to St. Helios. That'd be the only thing they would have to change. And then Chief could have been the main character.
I know, that is another thing. Chief easily could have been the main character, and honestly, I feel like Locke, as I said, Locke didn't mean anything to Chief. Like, they had no tension or anything. You could have literally replaced Locke with any other Spartan, and it wouldn't have made a difference. Like, you could have replaced Locke with a different Spartan 4 and let him lead and try to find Chief, and it's not like anyone would have freaking cared. Locke is, like, meaningless.
It's like, for example, a key contrast is, like, the thing about Locke is, the reason I was excited for Locke at first in the advertising was because he was advertised and the trailers kind of showed him as this different kind of character, like this character we'd never seen. Someone who's antagonistic, someone who's highly loyal to a cause and will do whatever it can to enforce it. It's something that we haven't seen out of, like, Chief yet. So it was cool because you would see them as opposites, because Chief was the one meant to always follow the orders, and he's for once breaking it, while the one who has more freedom in life is the one following the orders, and it creates this almost opposite situation. But none of it's in the game.
None of it's in the game, and that's, like, the real thing. Like, what actually did happen behind the scenes. We're not going to go into, like, the marketing or anything, but, like, really, this game was just completely... Like, it's decent for a campaign, but as a Halo campaign, it's just plain crap. Like, it's probably, okay, maybe not fully, but it's probably the worst Halo campaign yet. Aside from maybe a few others, like, arguably. But literally, this is probably the worst Halo campaign. Like, seriously, there's just barely any character development. And as I said, there doesn't have to be that many character development, but there's, like, nothing. Like, it's just so bland, and the story that we got, it's not... And, oh yeah, the Cortana thing. That's just stupid. Like, I'm sorry.
So basically, guys, Cortana basically comes back and has this plan to essentially use the Guardians to basically police the galaxy in a nutshell.
Yeah, she wants to, like, rule the freaking world with AIs and stuff, and it's just like, oh my gosh.
It's just like, is this really the best you can think of?
You have the whole Halo universe, the entire lore, you have everything at your disposal, and, oh, I have an idea, let's create an AI uprising, because that's the best thing I can ever do. Even though it's practically the most generic thing ever, and plus it doesn't even feel like Halo, like an AI uprising. If I have to, like, go play Halo 6 and go up against, like, freaking AIs and stuff, like, no. That would be stupid.
Well, it just had so much more. Like, think of some stories that people theorized. Like, for example, Chief evolving to become a Forerunner, or another story about the Didact coming back and having this massive plan to essentially use the Composer to give life itself immortality so people can live in harmony permanently, or another story where, like, I don't know, like, even something like the Guardians where it's like the Warden Eternal plan, or like Chief is actually using the Guardians to fulfill the Librarian's plan to, you know, help humanity assume the mantle of responsibility.
And dude, this game, like, slash whatever 343 is doing, doesn't even deserve the name Reclaimer, like the Reclaimer saga or trilogy, because seriously, Master Chief is, the Forerunner thing has practically been ditched at this point, kind of, because, like, they're really not focusing on Chief anymore and, like, what really he was. They're really just focusing more on, like, just, I guess, Cortana and Locke and stuff. It's like, what happened? Did they just ditch everything? Like, okay, from Halo 4, the only thing I wanted them to get better was the multiplayer. The campaign was great, and then when you go to this game, it's like, what happened?
Like, yes, Halo 4 had problems with level design, and yes, the story was hard to understand from a casual standpoint, but it was still brilliant in the way it developed characters, set up set pieces, and established future generation. But Halo 5 fails. It fails to understand what principle you need to use when you're attempting to make a Halo story.
Exactly. It's honestly, guys, Halo 5 story was just completely a letdown. Like, I don't know, like, really, that for me and Dumb Orange, the story was what we were looking forward to the most, and it actually turned out to be the worst thing there, you know?
It's like, what could have been of the story would allow it to grow. Like, I'd almost wish 343, I know it will never happen, but I almost wish they would just remake the story or something, but...
And I don't know how they're gonna dig themselves out of this hole in Halo 6, like...
I don't know either, but that's what we can discuss. How does 343 make this great for Halo 6? Like, obviously everything set up would have to stay, but how could they make the story better for Halo 6? Well, the first thing I think they do, expand the character development of Chief, of what it feels like to have your, essentially having to go against your best friend who, you know, essentially is screwing humanity and wants to rule the galaxy and stuff. Make Chief kind of break down through this and have it, and kind of put it in the shoes of how would Chief feel when he's having to fight Cortana.
And, okay, for Halo 6, unless they're gonna, like, somehow expand the blue team and stuff, I honestly think they should just completely ditch the blue team thing. Not because I don't like blue team, but just because the squad system sucks. And not just that, they literally have no development at all. So,
expand the characters, but here's the problem. I almost am certain the squad system will come back. I just have that feeling, especially when the article from, what's his name, Josh Holmes, said that the Halo 6 co-op experience will be almost exactly like it was in Halo 5. So it's
Wait, does that mean split screen's gonna be the same?
I don't know. He hasn't mentioned split screen yet. He just said the co-op experience as a whole, so I think that just means like the squad system will come back. Hopefully split screen will return, but that's a discussion for another video. But key contributing B is that if the squad system does come back, as much as I don't want it to, expand the characters.
Expand the characters and upgrade the squad system because it's kind of bad at the moment.
It's like, make us care about each character because there's nothing going for it right now. It's like, honestly, if Osiris and Blue Team weren't there and it was just Chief and Locke, it honestly wouldn't have made much of a difference in the overall story.
I know, it's like, really, Locke is just completely useless. Like, as I said, you could replace Locke with any other character and it's not really going to make much of a difference. He doesn't really bring too many qualities to the table that make me think, like, anything of him. Like, I could put a different Spartan 4 in Locke's position, pretty much.
Well, what have made sense is maybe, like, okay, for example, I would have wanted Thorn to return, because Thorn was a character from Spartan Ops, and he was a guy who was really meaningful, because in the Spartan Ops story, he essentially was a person who looked up to the Master Chief, found him, just this big hero, and wanted to make a difference upon the UNSC and everything. That's why he became a Spartan 4. He wanted to do that, as well as this, to honor the death of his family during New Phoenix, which is, his family got composed by Didact. So, he wanted to honor that, and it brought a sense of character depth, but Thorn's now out. Like, at this point, Thorn probably just doesn't exist anymore. Like, 343 doesn't give a heck about the Spartan Op characters. Except Halsey, just because, well, Halsey. But there's no sense. There's no sense.
Yeah, pretty much everyone from Spartan Ops is practically dead.
Because Julian Dama's dead.
Half of the characters are just not even acknowledging.
Like, there's nothing going for the game. It's like, even returning characters, like I said, Arbiter's useless, and yes, Buck is in the game, but he's really not that big of a deal, because here's the thing. He just, in some ways, doesn't feel like Buck to me. He feels like, in a way, just Nathan Fillion playing himself. Just because he's just doing all these jokes and these desperate situations, and you're just like, bro. Like, are you for real? Like Buck in ODST, yes, he was funny, but he still had command and control, and he still was, serious when the time needed to be.
Yeah, Buck was not miscasted, but, like, miswrote, in my opinion.
But overall, guys, it's like, when it comes to a Halo 5 story, it just hit the wrong mark. I hope Halo 6 can address this. I don't know, maybe if we're lucky, Brian Reed will get his act together and maybe learn from the mistakes and make Halo 6 a pretty good story. Like, at this point, I'm not even asking for, like, this grand epic story at this point and saying it's the best Halo story ever. I just want a good Halo story at this point.
Yeah, like, seriously, guys, okay, I know this technically isn't just the campaign, but in 343, they've had 3 games, technically 4, to make a good Halo, and really, this is their final chance, in my opinion. Like, honestly, Halo 5 really should be the final chance, but Halo 6 needs to be a really good game, because they've really screwed up too many stuff, and, like, they've gotten so many chances to make a good game. Like, whenever they put together a decent multiplayer, they make a bad campaign, and whenever they put a good campaign,
they put a, bad multiplayer, or at least a pretty mediocre multiplayer. By the way, Dusk Thunder 9's no longer here. Just trying to finish this vid without him. But the point being, guys, is that Halo 5 story, while it has some ups, it needs some work. And I'm hoping, I can only hope, Halo 6 can finally, make a pretty decent Halo story. And yeah, guys, only the future will tell. Hopefully Halo Wars 2 will be really awesome. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, guys. Please like this video up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.